All right, so have you ever looked at your bank statement and thought, wait, where did all my money go?
Happens to the best of us.
Today, we're doing a deep dive, right? We're going to deep dive into controlling wasteful spending.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, this document that you actually shared with me, it really got me thinking about how we can kind of make our money work harder for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not just about saving, but really about how we can achieve those goals that really matter to us, whether that's a dream trip, early retirement, or just, even just feeling financially secure.
Feeling secure, absolutely.
What I found so fascinating about this approach and what you brought up was how it tackles these invisible expenses.
Yes, the little things.
The little things.
That don't seem like much by themselves.
Right.
But then they add up over time and just quietly sabotage our bigger plans.
Totally sabotage. Yeah, it's so true. And the document even uses, I love this term, gastos superfluos.
Ooh, I like that. Oh, very fancy.
It's Spanish for superfluous expenses.
I see.
So I'm curious, have any of these kind of sneaky culprits crept into your spending habits?
Oh, sure.
Things like those impulse buys, maybe, subscription services we just forgot we were even paying for. Or one too many takeout nights. I'm guilty of that.
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there. I think the danger is that these gastos superfluos often stem from those deeper psychological triggers.
Oh, interesting.
Like maybe emotional spending after a rough day, or social pressure. We all feel that to keep up with trends.
Yes.
Or just simply the allure of convenience over cost.
Convenience over cost. Yeah, that really resonates. So the document, doesn't just point fingers.
No. It gives us a plan.
It gives us a tactical plan.
Yeah.
To pinpoint these spending leaks. And it all starts with something I think so important. It all starts with tracking.
Tracking, yes.
Every single expense for 30 days.
Every single one.
Every single one. The good, the bad, and the latte stained.
Yep. The whole picture.
And you were saying something so important, right? It's not just about tracking mindlessly.
Right. It's about the categories.
Categorizing everything.
Yes.
Because it reveals patterns.
Exactly.
Like, are you actually spending more on your wants than your needs?
That's it. And the document actually suggests, have you heard of the 24-hour rule?
The 24-hour rule. Tell me about it.
For purchases. So if you are still thinking about it a day later, it might be worth considering.
Okay.
But often that impulse fades away.
Oh, that's really interesting. It's like giving yourself a cooling off period.
Exactly.
Before making a big decision.
Yeah.
I love that. Speaking of decisions, what do you think about those subscription audits? The document talks about this, and they're basically saying, you got to ruthlessly go through every single subscription, all of them.
And cut the ones you're just not really using.
Yeah. It sounds intense.
It does, but it's liberating. It truly is.
Liberating.
I actually went through my subscriptions recently and realized I was paying for 3 streaming services that I barely even used.
Oh, wow.
I canceled 2 of them, and now I'm saving over $30 a month.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the money. It just felt like decluttering my mental space, too.
Oh, yeah, that's such a good point. It's not just about the financial impact, but the emotional one, too.
Absolutely.
The document also talks about, and I love this, they call it silent budget killers.
Oh, yeah.
It's these small, repeated expenses that we just don't even notice.
We don't.
Things like that daily coffee run, buying lunch every day instead of packing it.
It adds up.
Or always hitting the vending machine.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on tackling these, especially for someone who might say, oh, it's just a few dollars here and there?
It is, but think of it like this. Those few dollars repeated day after day, week after week, turn into a significant sum over time. Imagine what you could do with that extra money. You could invest it, pay down debt, or even treat yourself to something that you truly value. It's about making those dollars work for you, not against you.
That's a great way to think about it. Okay, so we've identified some of our spending leaks. Now for the exciting part. What do we do about it?
Fun part.
The fun part, yeah. The document outlines this whole action plan, right?
It does.
For reducing wasteful spending and redirecting it toward our goals.
Love it.
Yeah. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of that, I'm curious, what's your overall philosophy when it comes to budgeting? The document mentions the classic 5B30-20 rule.
Oh, yeah. The old standby.
But is that a one-size-fits-all, or should it be more tailored?
It's a great starting point, especially for someone new to budgeting. So 50% for your needs, 30% for your wants, and 20% for savings and debt repayment. It's just a framework.
Right.
The beauty of budgeting is that it's not a rigid set of rules.
I see.
You customize it. You make it reflect your own priorities.
So what about some of those like extreme methods, right, that the document talks about? Like what about a no spend challenge?
No spend.
I'm picturing myself like totally deprived.
Right.
But maybe there's like a psychological benefit to it that I'm not seeing.
No spend challenges can seem a little intimidating.
Yeah.
But they're really about awareness. It's like resetting your relationship with spending.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it's amazing what you discover when you're forced to get creative with your free time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And find joy in those experiences that don't actually require spending money.
That's so interesting. It's like a shift in perspective almost.
It is. It really is.
Speaking of shifting perspective, the document talks about using cash for your discretionary spending. Do you think there's something about physically handing over bills
Totally.
that makes us more conscious of how we're spending?
It makes it real.
As opposed to just swiping a card.
Exactly. There's that tangible connection.
Right.
You can see those funds dwindling.
You see it.
And it eliminates that risk of racking up credit card debt.
That's a good point. It's almost like bringing back the envelope system.
Yeah. Like our grandparents used.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, for those bigger purchases, new phone, vacation, down payment on a house, the document really emphasizes planning in advance. Sounds like common sense.
It does.
But so many people get caught in that instant gratification, you know?
It's so easy.
And end up overspending.
Yes.
So how do we instill that delayed gratification mindset, especially in a world of buy now, pay later?
Delayed gratification is a powerful tool, not just for finances, but for overall happiness. When we save and plan for something, the reward is just so much sweeter when we achieve it. It's a shift, moving away from that instant gratification towards long-term fulfillment.
Long-term fulfillment. I love that. Now, the document also dives into practical tips for curbing impulse buying. I think we can all relate to that.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of your favorites?
One of the simplest. Make a shopping list and stick to it religiously.
Okay.
It sounds basic,
Yeah.
but it really does eliminate those tempting impulse buys.
It's like you gotta have your blinders on at the grocery store.
That's a great analogy. Focus on what you need.
Unsubscribe from those tempting emails too, right?
Yes. All those promotional blasts that are always coming at us.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if online shopping is your weakness, there are browser extensions that will actually block those websites for you.
A digital bodyguard for your wallet. Love it.
There you go.
I gotta look into those. Let's talk dining out. This can be a major budget killer, can it?
It can be. It can be.
And the document suggests, limiting those restaurant meals.
Yeah. Cooking at home more.
Cooking more at home.
Yep.
But what about someone who might say, I don't have time to cook, or I'm just not good at it?
Meal prepping. Meal
Yeah.
prepping is a game changer. If you could spend a few hours on the weekend, prepping your meals for the week ahead,
Yeah.
you'll be way less tempted to order takeout on those busy weeknights.
That makes sense. I've heard great things about meal prepping, but I always get intimidated.
I know. It seems like a lot.
Do you have like a go-to recipe?
I do. One of my favorite strategies is to roast a big batch of veggies.
Okay.
And then a protein could be chicken, tofu on Sunday. And then use that throughout the week in different combinations. Salads, wraps, grain bowls. It's really versatile.
That sounds easy, even for a beginner cook like me. The document also talks about being a smart consumer,
Yes.
taking advantage of discounts, comparing prices.
Being strategic.
Yeah, being strategic. But how do you strike that balance between being frugal but not missing out on opportunities?
Right. Being a smart consumer isn't about being cheap. It's about being intentional.
Ah,
Use those discounts strategically. Don't let a good deal tempt you into buying something you don't actually need.
so it's not about depriving yourself. It's making sure every purchase,
Yeah.
even if it's a deal, it aligns with your values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about those trade-offs.
Okay, last strategy before we move on. Decluttering and selling unused items.
Oh, I love that one.
Seems like a win-win, right?
It is.
Declutter your space, maybe make some extra cash. Have you had any personal experience with this?
Oh, absolutely. When I moved last year, I was amazed at how much stuff I had accumulated that I just wasn't using. I had a garage sale,
Oh, nice.
made a few $100s, put it towards my travel fund.
That's awesome.
It felt great. Decluttering my physical space boosting my savings.
That's like turning clutter into opportunity.
Exactly.
We've talked about a lot of strategies, but let's talk about the emotional side of spending.
The psychology behind it.
Yeah, the psychology behind it. How do we identify those deeper triggers?
Self-awareness is key.
Uh-huh.
Pay attention to your spending patterns. Ask yourself, do you spend more when you're stressed, sad, bored? Are you trying to keep up with a certain image?
It's almost like journaling, but for your finances.
Exactly. And once you identify those triggers, you can start to develop healthier coping mechanisms. Instead of going for retail therapy, try exercise, meditation, connecting with loved ones.
So addressing the root cause, not just the symptom.
Precisely. That's where true financial freedom begins.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah, it's like we're taking back control.
Totally.
Not just of our finances, but our emotions and our choices too.
It's so true. And, we've talked about cutting back on these wasteful expenses.
Right.
But let's get to the exciting part. Like, what do we actually DO?
Yeah.
With all that money we've saved?
I know.
The document outlines a bunch of options.
Uh-huh.
And I'd love to get your take on each of them.
Sure.
Let's start with building an emergency fund.
Okay, yeah.
Why is this so crucial, even for someone who might be struggling to make ends meet?
An emergency fund, it's not just about practical financial security. It's about peace of mind, Imagine facing an unexpected car repair.
Oh, yeah.
Or medical bill without that safety net.
Right.
It's stressful. That stress alone can really derail our financial progress.
Yeah, I can totally see how that sense of security could make a huge difference in how we approach our finances overall.
For sure.
But for someone starting from scratch, how do they even begin?
You don't need a huge sum to get started.
Okay.
Even $10 or $20 a week automatically transferred into a separate savings account.
Okay.
It adds up over time.
That makes a lot of sense.
Think of it as paying your future self.
Paying it forward to future you.
Exactly.
I love that. Now, the document also talks about paying off debt as a priority. Huge. For someone feeling totally overwhelmed by debt.
Yeah.
What's the most effective approach?
There are a couple of strategies.
Okay.
But one that I really like is the debt snowball method.
Okay.
So you list your debts from smallest to largest.
Okay.
Regardless of interest rates.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you just focus
interesting.
on aggressively paying off that smallest one first.
So it's like those small wins give you that momentum.
You got it. Each debt you conquer feels like a victory, right? It boosts your confidence and proves to yourself that you can take control.
Yeah.
And once you're debt-free, imagine the possibilities.
I know.
Investing, pursuing your passions,
Yeah.
or simply enjoying the freedom.
That feeling of freedom
Amazing.
must be incredible.
Speaking of investing, the document mentions a bunch of different options.
Yeah. There are a lot out there.
Stocks, bonds, real estate, retirement accounts, even cryptocurrencies.
There's a lot to take in,
It can be overwhelming for sure.
especially for someone new to investing.
How would you advise someone to navigate this?
Start with education.
Okay,
Don't jump into anything you don't understand.
that's good advice.
There are tons of resources online, libraries.
That's-
The document talks about diversifying your portfolio.
So don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Okay, but beyond that.
It's about understanding your risk tolerance, right?
Okay.
Are you comfortable with potentially high returns, but also high volatility?
Or do you prefer slower, steadier growth?
I see.
It depends on your age, your financial goals, your time horizon.
So someone younger, they might be okay with a little more risk.
Exactly, because they have more time to recover if things go south.
And someone closer to retirement.
They might prioritize stability over those big swings.
Makes sense, yeah. What about if someone needs help navigating those decisions?
Don't be afraid to talk to a financial advisor.
Yeah,
It's an investment.
absolutely. Now, beyond just investing for the future, the document also touches on contributing to those long-term goals.
Yes, the fun stuff.
The fun stuff, exactly.
Whether it's buying a home,
Right.
starting a business, traveling the world.
Yeah, how do we turn those dreams into concrete financial plans?
It starts with setting SMART goals.
Right, we talked about those.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
So instead of just saying, I want to travel,
Right, get specific.
Okay.
Where do you want to go? How much will it cost? When do you want to go?
that's a good point, that specificity.
It makes it real.
It really does. But beyond setting those goals, how do we make sure we're allocating the money effectively?
Visualize your goals.
Okay.
Find images that represent your dreams.
Okay.
A photo of your dream home. A map of the places you want to travel.
Keep visible.
Keep them visible as a reminder of what you're working towards.
Almost like a vision board.
Exactly.
But what about tracking progress along the way?
It's essential. But celebrate those small wins too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Even if you just save an extra $50 this month, acknowledge it.
Yeah, those little victories.
It reinforces those positive habits.
Totally. Now, this document goes beyond strategies and tactics.
It does.
It talks about cultivating a frugal mindset. What does that even mean? And how is that different from just being cheap?
It's about intentionality.
Yeah.
It's not about depriving yourself. It's about making conscious choices that reflect your values.
Okay.
A cheap person might just focus on the lowest price,
Right.
no matter what, whereas a frugal person might invest in a higher quality item.
That'll last longer.
Exactly, saving them money in the long run.
So it's a deeper understanding of value, not just cost.
You got it.
The document talks about gratitude as part of this mindset.
That's a good one.
How does gratitude help us make better financial decisions?
When we're grateful for what we have, we're less likely to get caught up in wanting more and more.
That's a good point.
It shifts our focus, right?
Right.
From what we lack to what we have,
Yeah.
it breaks free from that consumerism cycle.
It's like an antidote to that keeping up with the Joneses mentality.
Exactly, which leads to so much overspending and unhappiness.
Totally. How do we cultivate gratitude in a practical way?
Keep a gratitude journal.
Okay.
Express appreciation to others, or just take a moment to reflect on the good things.
Those small practices can make a difference.
Absolutely, and that includes our financial well-being.
Now, the document also warns against lifestyle inflation.
Ooh, sneaky one.
What is that?
It's when we increase our spending as our income rises.
Oh.
If we get a raise, suddenly we need a bigger house, a fancier car.
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
It is. But if we can resist that urge
Okay.
and maintain our current lifestyle, we can free up so much money.
It's like outsmarting that urge to constantly upgrade.
You got it.
How do we stay grounded, especially in a society that equates success with material things?
Define success on your own terms.
Okay.
What does wealth and fulfillment really mean to you?
It's about aligning our spending with our values.
Exactly, not with societal pressures.
Now, we've talked about gratitude, avoiding lifestyle inflation.
Right.
But what about surrounding ourselves with supportive people?
It's huge. We become like the people we spend the most time with.
Yeah.
If your friends are constantly shopping, eating out, racking up debt, it's tough.
It's like peer pressure.
It is, but for adults.
But if you surround yourself with people who are mindful,
Exactly.
it can make a huge difference.
It's like having a financial cheerleading squad.
Totally. Now, let's go back to that no spend challenge.
Okay, yeah,
It can seem daunting,
it can.
but you mentioned it can be surprisingly liberating.
Yes.
Any tips for someone considering it?
Start with a realistic time frame,
Okay.
a week, a month, whatever you can handle. Identify your spending triggers
Okay.
and create a plan to avoid them.
So if online shopping's your weakness,
Block those websites.
if you overspend at the grocery store,
Stick to that list.
okay, those are great tactical tips, but how do you make it FUN?
Challenge yourself. Explore free or low-cost activities.
Oh, okay.
Museums, parks, hiking trails, free concerts.
Right.
Host a potluck dinner instead of going out to eat.
Yeah.
Rediscover hobbies that don't require spending money.
It's like a detox for your wallet and your mind.
I love that analogy.
Now, the document also highlights decluttering and selling those unused items.
Yes, great way to boost savings or pay off debt.
How do you approach this creatively?
Decluttering can be so cathartic. It's not just about getting rid of stuff.
Right.
It's about creating space.
For new possibilities.
Exactly. And when you sell those unwanted items,
Yeah.
you're turning clutter into cash.
It's like giving those items a second life.
Right.
You mentioned earlier that you used money from a garage sale to fund a trip.
I did.
What was that experience like?
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It made me realize that by letting go of things I didn't need,
Yeah.
I was actually creating space for experiences.
Yeah.
Things that truly mattered to me.
Huh?
It shifted my focus,
Yeah.
from accumulating possessions to actually pursuing adventures and making memories.
That's a powerful realization. It really speaks to the heart of what we've been talking about, right? Aligning our spending with our values.
Absolutely. When we let go of that need to constantly acquire more,
Yeah.
we free ourselves up
Yeah.
to pursue things that actually enrich our lives.
Like we're decluttering our minds.
Exactly.
As well as our physical spaces. We've talked about so many strategies, but what are some common pitfalls, roadblocks that people might run into
Oh yeah, for sure.
when they're trying to implement all this.
I think one of the biggest challenges is that temptation to compare ourselves to others,
Oh, yeah.
especially with social media.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Right. It's just a constant stream of like curated images, perfect lifestyles,
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
and it can make us feel inadequate, like we're not doing enough.
Totally.
Yeah.
How do we stay grounded then? You know? How do we focus on our own path?
I think it's about defining success on our own terms.
Okay.
What does true wealth and happiness really mean to you?
Right.
It's not about keeping up with the Joneses.
It's about creating a life that reflects our values.
Exactly. And sometimes that means saying no to things that don't align with our goals.
Even if it's trendy or everyone's doing it.
Exactly. It's about having the courage to stand out from the crowd.
Right.
And create a life that feels truly fulfilling.
Both financially and emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of fulfillment, we've talked about aligning our spending with our values, but how do we actually put that into action?
It starts with self-reflection.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what brings me joy?
Yeah.
What am I passionate about? What kind of impact do I want to make on the world?
Okay, so once you know your values,
Yeah.
how do you use that to guide your financial decisions?
You start evaluating your spending through that lens.
Okay, so for example, if someone values sustainability,
Yeah.
they might choose to buy eco-friendly products
Correct.
or reduce their consumption.
Exactly. And if someone values personal growth,
Yeah.
they might prioritize spending on education, travel, experiences.
It's about making choices that reflect what matters.
And sometimes that means saying yes to something, even if it seems expensive.
Because it aligns with your values.
Exactly. It's not about blindly following rules. It's about understanding your own needs.
Your priorities.
Yeah. And making decisions that support your happiness.
And that's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. It's a
A
journey.
journey, not a destination.
We're always learning, experimenting, adjusting.
As we grow and evolve, I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
It is.
Remember, controlling wasteful spending, it's not about deprivation.
It's about empowerment.
Empowerment, exactly. It's about taking control and using your resources to create the life you want.
A life that reflects who you are and what you value.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights.
And inspiration.
Inspiration, yeah, to make your money work harder for you.
So you can focus on the things that truly matter.
Until next time, happy spending.